It was raining like the sky had a grudge, and a man in a perfect suit went down on the sidewalk in front of the hospital, with his name on the plaque, hands to his chest, eyes wide like someone had turned the gravity up. I was the one who ran to him, not because I knew who he was, but because I knew that sound people make when they're trying to breathe through fear. I said my name. Naomi counted his breaths, held his hand in the back of an ambulance, while sirens stitched the night together. He squeezed back like a person who hadn't held on to anyone in a long time, and that's where our story really starts. Inside the ER, it was all bright lights and clipped orders. Dr. Patricia Reeves leaning over the bed, nurses moving like choreography, me, in soaking sneakers, wondering if anyone would kick me out. Security stared, an administrator whispered, "Family only," and I would have stepped away, but Jonathan Pierce looked past the monitors and found me like, "You find a lighthouse in a storm, don't leave." Dr. Reeves watched the numbers rise and fall, watched me talk him through another wave, and said what surprised everyone, and also made sense, let her stay. Then Richard showed up. Older brother, colder eyes, coat that probably cost rent for a year, and tried to dismiss me with thanks that weren't really thanks. "Appreciate you helping. You can go now." I said I'd promised Jonathan I'd stay, and I keep promises. He smiled without warmth. Promises are for people with skin in the game. Dr. Reeves cut in. His vitals are more stable when she's here. The monitors agreed, so I kept the chair, and sometimes that's all it takes to change the shape of a night. They ran tests until the printer ran out of paper, neat lines of EKGs, labs that came back normal, scans that said this heart should be fine. Between beeps and blood pressure cuffs, Jonathan told me small things that felt big. He hadn't slept a full night in months. The silence in his house was loud. Sometimes he worked just so he didn't have to think. I told him about my mom, about the coworker who stayed with her during a heart scare, and how Mom said that stranger's voice kept her from slipping away. When Dr. Reeves came back at sunrise, she said what nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to understand. Your body is sounding the alarm your life has been ignoring. Loneliness, pressure, grief can sit on your chest just like a disease. Jonathan looked embarrassed, like being human was a bad headline, and I squeezed his hand, so he knew he wasn't the only one in the room with cracks. They discharged him with instructions and a follow-up, and I packed my backpack ready to disappear back into the city that pretends you're a shadow. He stopped me at the sliding doors. "Come with me at least for a few days. There's a guest house you helped me breathe. I'm not ready to do this alone." I laughed because I was scared. "You don't know me, I could rob you." And he said, "Then you're the kindest thief I've ever met." No pity, no savior speech, just a man asking for company like it was oxygen. I said yes with conditions. I keep my keys. I keep my choices. You don't get to turn me into a project. He said, "Okay," like a person learning how to agree without owning. And that's harder than it sounds, you know what I mean. His place was the kind of quiet that usually makes you feel small, but the guest house was soft around the edges, warm light, a kitchen that invited you to sit. Mrs. Chen left a casserole, and I watched a billionaire try to turn on an oven like it was a puzzle box. Yeah, that happened. I taught him the knife grip that keeps your fingers where they belong. He nicked himself anyway. I cleaned it, we laughed, and for the first time in months, food tasted like more than fuel. Mornings he took calls by the window, jaw tight, whenever Richard's name flashed on the screen. Afternoons we walked under lemon trees, and I pointed out the moment his shoulders dropped an inch, and the world let him back in. At night, he slept, really slept, and the house sounded like a person exhaling. One afternoon by the pool, he said, "You'd make a great nurse," and I told him about the degree I'd pressed pause on when life got messy. He said the words that lit up my fear and my hope. "At the same time, I want to pay for your school." I told him no strings, no debts that turn into cages, no story where I become gratitude in a dress. He said, then we'll write it so you can burn it if you ever feel trapped. And I believed him because his eyes didn't look like a man buying a conscience. They looked like a man offering a key. We went to campus, and I picked up applications with hands that shook, not from doubt exactly, more like from the weight of wanting something too long. Weeks later, 2 envelopes, 2 acceptances, and a hug in his office that we both stepped back from, like we'd touched something true. It should have been clean from there, but life loves a left hook. In a tense board meeting, the kind where words like exposure and acquisition come out sharp, Jonathan went pale hand to chest, and the room did that thing where everyone looks at each other like maybe it'll fix itself. Richard called me, he's asking for you, and my legs moved before my mind did. Same ER, same bright lights, same fear in his eyes, and Dr. Reeves with the calm voice, what changed? Jonathan stared at the ceiling and said it like a confession, last time I was scared of being alone this time. I'm scared of losing what I've found. Dr. Reeves nodded. That's still anxiety, but it's the kind that comes from love, which is progress even when it hurts. We talked all night, not about dying, about living in a way that doesn't turn love into a trigger. He said he wanted to set up a trust with my name on it, so choices would stay choices, he said. He wanted to step back from the parts of business that ate him alive and put his money where it could make something breathe. That's how New Horizons was born, not as a press release, as a fix for the gaps I knew by heart. Intakes that ask your name before your story, mental health on day one. A jobs room with people who get that trauma steals sleep. A childcare corner next to the computer lab, so parents don't have to choose between applications and toddlers. Jonathan read my plan like a map out of the woods. How much for year 1, I told him. He said done. And then he showed up with a paint roller on a Saturday, like a man who wanted to build something with his hands. The first 30 days we placed families in real apartments, not mats on a gym floor. The next month, it was more the bulletin board filled with photos and thank you notes in shaky handwriting. And one afternoon, I caught Jonathan staring at the board like it rewired his heartbeat. Here's the twist people argue about. We fell in love for real, not all at once, not a movie montage, just 1,000 small choices that add up to a life. Cooking side by side, his jacket on my shoulders, when the wind was mean, my hand on his, when the calendar got loud again. He said at first, I think I'm falling in love with you, his careful eyes certain. I said, I think I am too, and I meant it. And I also meant this. I finish school. I keep my work. I don't become the story people want to tell about a billionaire and a project. He smiled like relief. I'm in love with your mind and your fire, not a version of you that fits a dinner party. We got married in the garden with lemon blossoms and folding chairs. Mr. Reeves stood with me. Richard stood with him, and afterward we went right back to the center. Because love is a meal you cook daily, not a trophy on a shelf. If you want a clean fairy tale ending, the world didn't get the memo. A columnist called me a gold digger. Without using the words, a donor's wife squeezed my hand too hard and warned me not to embarrass him. A city office sent a polite threat about reviewing our funding because love and power make officials itchy. We answered every question, then opened the doors at 7 a.m., like always. Meanwhile, Jonathan's different. Softer where it matters, stronger where it counts. He gave the company's daily grind to people who actually like the grind. He spends mornings at New Horizons listening, afternoons redirecting money into scholarships, and nights in a kitchen that always smells like garlic now. My grades are better than I dreamed. My fear still visits. Sometimes his tight chest still hums on bad days, but we know how to breathe together. In for 4, out for 6, leave room for grace. So here's the part that might start a fight in the comments, and maybe that's healthy. Is it wrong that a homeless girl could change a billionaire's life more than his doctors did, or is it proof that care is a medicine? we keep pretending isn't real? Is it a problem? That love opened doors that letters never would? Or is it what justice looks like when people who are never seen finally get seen by someone who can do something? You tell me. Tell me if you think I should have walked away after the ambulance. Tell me if you think he should have figured it out alone. Tell me where you're watching from and what you've witnessed in your city. The lines outside shelters at dawn, the men in suits who can't sleep the way a hand on a shoulder changes the math. Drop your take below, argue it out with care, and if this story made you breathe a little easier, hit subscribe so more folks hear it. Because sometimes the cure you're chasing isn't a pill or a procedure. It's a person who refuses to leave your side when the room gets loud.